don't forget how good the God is that we serve. I'm sitting here recording this in a house that God has provided for my children and I. For those that follow my ministry, y'all know that we have been living in a hotel for a little while we wait on our rent house, and it was rough. I had finally hit a point where I was like, God, I can't take this anymore. I can't take living in a hotel one more day. Like, I just don't have it in me. I don't. And I was like, I don't want to live with anybody else either, right? And he humbled me. So something that God had told me a long time ago was to share my journey, right? To share my testimonies, to share things, right? Because you never know who needs to hear your testimony. And at first I was like, I really didn't want to post in these groups because I was like, God, I don't want people, which is stupid now that I think about it, but I was like, I don't really want everybody knowing that my kids and I are looking for a rent house. Why? Why does that even matter? And so I finally posted in this group. Within 24 hours, this lady had commented on there and they let us move into their rent house. And this is how good God is, okay? I was looking for at least a 3-bedroom, right? I'm like, I can share with my daughter, it's fine. We get here and it's more than what I could have asked for, because that's how God works. There was another house that I had been looking at, and I had the feeling to leave it alone, to wait, that God had something better. Even though that house was put up for rent at the beginning of May, right? Sometimes we don't like to wait. There were certain things that I was praying for that I wanted for my children and I. So I kept having this feeling to wait. And I'm like, okay. So we get to this house. Y'all, it has a huge fenced in yard. Huge. And that was one of the things on my list. Then I was only looking for a 3-bedroom. This house has 4 bedrooms. It's just, God will give you more than what you're even asking for. I had gotten to the point I was like, God, we need a house. Yes, it needs to have, these things, but that's fine, just whatever. And God was like, no, pray for what you want and believe in what you pray for. Have that faith, and have that faith that he's going to provide, right? And sometimes it may not look like what you expected, right? So at first I was looking for a house in an entirely different area. This is not even the area that I was looking in and whatnot. But when I tell you this has been a journey, it has been a journey. So I'm going to share like the details of this, right? Part of me doesn't want to, but it is what it is. Like, I'm real with you guys. I'm human. So there was a house that was available back in April, right? When we first started looking. And we were out of town. I was like, I'll come look at this house whenever I get back into town. And I got back into town and something was like, don't even message them. Like, don't even mess with it. And wanting a house desperately, I'm like, is that really what I heard? And I messaged this person. So it gets to be the day before we're supposed to move in. The day before. And part of this is my fault. I'll take claim to this. So I had told him, I was like, hey, can I go ahead and Zelle you this whenever I get back to the hotel or later on tonight, whatever, right? Because we had things I had to do or wanted to do, so on and so forth. He was like, yeah, it's fine. On the lease that I had signed, it had said that I had till like the 3rd or whatever to pay the rent. It was the 1st. Anyways, so it gets late that night and I ended up going to sleep and I didn't pay it. I get up the next day, I hear from him and I'm like, hey, I'm about to pay it. I'm sorry, but it wasn't even past the date. And he tells me that they decided not to rent to me. Y'all, I was devastated. And I was so angry with myself, but I also had a feeling not to pay it. I was back and forth because something kept tugging at me to not pay it, to leave it alone, right? And then God was like, see, if you would have never even messaged this person, this would have never even happened. This isn't the house for you. So anyways, I'm so upset, y'all, because I do not want to be living in these hotels. My flesh is screaming, even though God was like, just wait, there's something better. Okay, so fast forward, 2 weeks go by, there's another house. I go look at it, it's really nice. It hits a lot of the check marks, but it's super expensive, right? And it doesn't come with like fridge, stove, water. It doesn't come with hardly anything. And I was like, okay, let me go check and see how much some of these things are used real quick. And for whatever reason that day, they were super expensive on the marketplace. And I was like, man, how am I going to do this? Because fear was consuming me, even though I know God will provide. If God calls you to something, he will provide everything. And I know that, right? But at the time, I was worried. And I was trying to think realistically and not walking by faith. So the devil creeped in. The guy from the first house messaged me and was like, hey, actually, if you want to move in, we're going to go ahead and let you move in. So I was like, okay, you know what? That house is cheaper and it comes with all these things, so I wouldn't even have to worry about that. I'm going to go with that option. Again, if I would have never even messaged them, that person would not have been able to message me again to throw me off, right? So it gets to the day of the signing the lease, right? The day of, I'm waiting to go meet him. And he messages me and tells me that he's decided to like live in his house himself, blah, 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 because of the market, all these other stuff. And then our hotel notifies me and says that cats actually aren't allowed in their hotel. I had no idea. Nobody said anything to me about that. And so we had to go find another hotel that same day as well. So I am for real devastated, because also during that time period of that day, the guy marked the other house as sold. And I even messaged to make sure it was for sure sold and not pending and all this other stuff, whatever, and it was. So now I'm really upset. And so at this point, I'm like, I'm done with this person. Like, I was so angry, but I'm like, you know what? Okay, fine. And I'm like, all right, God, trust you, whatever. So we get into a different hotel. Everything's good. I verify, like, we're allowed to have pets. Everything's okay, cool, so on and so forth. So we're in this hotel, and something was off, spiritual-wise, right? So the cleaning lady that was there was just super rude to us, right? She was really upset.
Mom, look at this.
I see that one day about a towel, right? And it being wet. The AC was literally leaking in the room. So the towel was super wet.
I like it.
Okay. And I had happened to use it for one of the puppies to clean up their pee for that instance, right? We didn't have the mop and stuff at this one yet. And actually, I didn't even bring it there. So she goes and reports it to the manager. He's upset and all this. I'm like, your AC is literally leaking. And then they tell us we are only allowed to have 2 pets in a room anyways. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Nobody told me that. I had clarified the pet thing from the beginning because I don't want to lie, right? And I want to be honest. Anyways, but there was somebody that was wearing like new age jewelry there. And I felt like witchcraft, right? So a big storm comes. It rains so hard that day that we're leaving. And I don't even care. Like, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I already knew something was off. And so the power goes out in our storage. We can't even get in our storage, right? So we leave. I have some things to do. And we go stay at a family member's house, right? And I'm like, God, I can't do this. I can't do this another day. I don't want to stay with anybody. I don't want to live with anybody. I know this is not your will. You promised me a house, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm to the end of it. I don't even want to look for another hotel. Boom, 24 hours. Not only did we find, basically we found this house, we got to move in this house within 24 hours, that moment of me having just absolute enough. And it is more than what I could ask for. More than what I could ask for, because God is good. God is good. And sometimes we have to wait for our blessings, but it is so important to be obedient no matter what God is saying.
I need a hat.
So now it's time to fill this house, but God's going to provide. I love you guys. Shalom. Bye.